This single mum is a benefits advisor, and she says poverty shaming will not stop her from taking a stand against universal credit rules, which she says penalise working parents like her. Nicola Salvato is taking the Department of Work and Pensions to the High Court after she says she was forced into £2,000 worth of debt because of upfront childcare costs. It's understood to be the first High Court challenge against the DWP relating to childcare costs and universal credit. And her case is being backed by a number of charities, including Save the Children and Gingerbread. Nicola is here. Good morning to you. Thank you for coming on the programme. As well as Carolyn Ott, a lawyer for Lee Day, the firm representing Nicola, and Victoria Benson, the boss of the charity Gingerbread, which supports lone parents and is backing Nicola's case. Welcome all of you. Thank you very much for coming on the programme. OK, let's just dig in to what's going on here. First of all, a broad question. You are a professional benefits advisor, someone who understands more than most of us about the benefits system, yet you're taking the Department of Work and Pensions to the High Court.
Yes.
Explain.
Well, if I can't fathom a way to make it work for me, then I wonder how anybody else possibly can. That was the bottom line. That's
motivating you?
Yeah.
So you say you ended up in over £2,000 worth of debt because of having to make upfront childcare costs. Just talk us through that.
Well, the way that universal credit works means that parents on or families on low incomes or medium to low incomes can get support for their childcare costs from the state via universal credit. But the new rules in universal credit, as opposed to the legacy benefit system, require families to pay upfront for their childcare costs, declare those costs and then claim it back, and you get a percentage of it back in a month or possibly 2 months. In contrast, not the voucher system, the tax-free system is an upfront payment from government that pays into a kitty, and that's for better off families. So it seems really frustrating that families on the lowest income have the hardest time trying to find £1,700 or £1,500, and that was my situation.
And where did you borrow that money from, if you don't mind me asking?
I borrowed from family, I borrowed from friends, and I borrowed from lenders.
OK. Now, the government says it has a flexible support fund, FSF, and a budgeting advance.
Yeah.
Why didn't that work for you?
They're not solutions to the problem at all.
Why not?
A number of reasons. A flexible support fund is not widely known about in the first place by the public or the DWP staff.
Did you not know about it?
I did know about it as a benefits advisor, but many people haven't heard about it.
But why didn't that help you then?
Well, I was advised, first of all, that it couldn't be used for childcare costs by the Department of Work and Pensions, the job centre manager, in fact.
Okay.
That's not true. It can be used for childcare costs, but it can only be used for single parents who have been in work for less than 6 months. So,
and that didn't apply to you?
And that didn't apply to me.
Okay.
So it can't deal with the fluctuating nature of childcare costs. And on top of that, if a parent does make a successful claim for the Flexible Support Fund, the way that it operates is that the Flexible Support Fund will pay the childcare provider directly. So you never get into the position where you've made a payment and you can declare those costs to universal credit and then be reimbursed. So you're in exactly the same difficulty in the following month trying to find the upfront costs. Does that make sense?
Almost.
Okay, it's the complicated rules.
I understand that they pay directly to the childcare provider. Yes. I don't know why that affects you in the next month.
So, I mean, I think a direct payment to the childcare provider is potentially a good idea continuously.
Yes.
But the requirement of universal credit is, in order to be reimbursed any childcare costs, you have to have paid those costs and you have to show an invoice and you have to show a receipt for payment.
I understand. I get it.
So if you didn't make the payment...
So they could pay the first bill for the first month or whatever if you qualified, which you didn't.
Yes.
Because of what you were earning.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they help with an advance payment? That's because you'd earned more than £2,500 in 6 months.
£2,600 in 6 months. Also, if you've got another advance that you're paying off, most people that go over to Universal Credit take out what they call a new claim loan or a change of benefit advance to help people through that difficult 5 weeks at the beginning of a Universal Credit claim. Most people do take out that loan. You're paying that back over the course of a year. You can't make a claim for another advance until you've paid that one off. So that, you know, that's really putting lots of people out of the equation.
Understood. As you say, pretty darn complex, actually.
Yes, yeah.
And you are a benefits advisor.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Carolyn and also Victoria. Carolyn, the case is built in terms of the legal case at the High Court. There are 2 grounds, as I understand it, 2 legal grounds. Can you explain those in layman's terms?
Yes, that's right. So the first ground that we're arguing is that this provision, this rule that you have to provide proof of payment in order to get your childcare costs paid back to you, that's indirectly discriminatory against women, because the provision disproportionately affects lone parents, 90% of whom are women, and so we say that's indirectly discriminatory. And our second argument is that it's irrational at common law, and that is because it runs directly contrary to the stated aim of universal credit and the childcare cost provision more generally, which is to try and encourage people into work, to increase their hours and to reduce barriers for parents, and particularly lone parents, to enter into the workforce and thrive within that workforce.
Okay. By the way, the DWP tell us we're unable to comment on an ongoing case, adding the government says it's committed to supporting parents with moving into work, and as part of this has increased the level of support for childcare costs from 70% in legacy benefits up to 85% in universal credit. Victoria, you want to support this case. You are supporting this case. Why?
Well, Gingerbread represents and advises single parents. We completely support this case because, unfortunately, Nicola's very far from alone. We hear from so many other single parents who really want to work. Most single parents want to work, but they're finding it really difficult to do that because they just simply don't have the money to pay the cost of childcare.
Yeah. If Nicola is successful, what would it mean going forward, do you think? What could the consequences be for other parents?
Well, the hope is that a finding of unlawfulness by the court would lead the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions to think again about the policy and change it so that it operates in a way where parents do not have to find the costs of childcare up front and have to make the payments up front. So that is the ultimate goal. And we think that there are realistic ways for that to be done, including, as Nicola said, by paying the childcare cost directly to the childcare provider, as that would address concerns about fraud and error that the DWP has raised as a potential justification. But we say the justification of saying that is why parents need to pay in advance, that's not enough, it's not proportionate, it doesn't...
What you mean, so let's just unpick that their justification for potential fraud means what? What do you mean?
So the DWP have said the reason they are requiring parents to provide proof of payment is that they need to do that in order to prevent fraud and error within the benefit system, and specifically by parents who are trying to claim childcare costs. But we say there are ways to address those concerns about fraud and error without making parents pay the price.
Right, OK. I mean, you could provide proof of payment, couldn't you? If you could afford to pay it.
Yes.
So when you borrowed from family and friends and from a loan
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to borrow enough to cover the costs.
Right, okay.
So, first of all, I'm borrowing, so there's that difficulty in having to pay that back. And secondly, I'm not borrowing enough to cover the entire cost.
But you'd have documentation from a loan company, but an IOU from family and friends is not really going to cut it, I would have thought, with the DWP, is it?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody else pays the cost for you, then it doesn't work. You can't use that as proof of payment. But the issue is that if the costs are fluctuating. So, for example, during term time, my average cost might be about £500 a month for breakfast club and after school club. So I might manage to pay 250 of that. So the following month, I'll get 200 back, say. But then in the following month, I now owe 750 because I only paid 250 of the 500.
So you never catch up.
You
never catch up. It's a wheel of stress.
Absolutely. And then you're hit by the holidays where you're looking at £1,700 or something like that. And it's, I mean, since the press release that Lee Day put out, I've been inundated with women and families in exactly the same situation. I think there's a lot of people in the country that really have a vested interest in the outcome of our case.
Absolutely, they'll be following it with interest.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that you've come on the programme. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you.
We'll follow it, of course.
Thank you.